Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome to our raw reaction review of Evil Dead Rise.
Mom?
Mommy's with the maggots now.
What will be.
Okay, Luke, the day is the day. It's Evil Dead Day, and we've been anticipating this. I think we both made it very clear in our short that this was our most anticipated film of the year. I'd say overall for me, was that the same for you, or is it just kind of like a thus far kind of thing?
Oh yeah, I could say looking at the schedule of everything that we have, this one was easily the most anticipated. I think we'll have some hidden gems in there, and there's definitely some good horror on the docket, but I think Evil Dead Rise was at the top of that list.
Yeah. And so, we've also been talking a lot lately about just franchise horror. It is no secret that we've seen a lot of, legacy franchises coming back into the limelight. Horror's having a big resurgence over the last few years. And, we've been critical about a lot of it. Like, we didn't really care for, all of the David Gordon Green trilogy. Each one of those movies had a lot of issues for us. The most recent Scream films have had a lot of issues for us. Texas Chainsaw, some people loved it. We did not, so it's like, and there's a bunch more I could go down the list on, but it's been really unfortunate whenever we talk franchise horror. And so, although my excitement level for this was like skyrocketed, I think as high as it could be, I went in nervous. Did you share that feeling at all?
I was somewhere in the middle, I guess, a little more. We talked about it on, our Evil Dead reviews, where the franchise here is it got a great track record, so and it seems like they were handling this one with some care. Yeah, you're right with Scream as well as Halloween. Those things just did not hit for us, and it's like I think that's that's the good and the bad with these kind of IP horror franchises here, where you have the built-in audience, but then you have an expectation. And yeah, even looking at Halloween, they don't have the greatest track record in terms of sequels. But it's like, they did something a little too different, I think, and it didn't really hit as a conclusion. Whereas Evil Dead Rise, where everything that we had seen from the trailer, the marketing, it pointed to a positive direction for me. So I went into this one much like I go into a lot of Scream films, pretty positive. So I wasn't as nervous. I thought that the everyone that was involved here was going to handle this one with some care. But I guess there is always that amount. You have a little bit of reservations going in because it is a protected franchise.
It is. But we've now seen the film, and we just got out of it probably about half hour ago or so. And I'm happy to report, man, I really genuinely think they knocked it out of the park with this one. I really, on my drive home, letting this sit with me, I really loved this movie. I thought this was so much fun. It hit all the right chords for me. And there were a lot of surprises as far as where the tonality of this installment was going to go, because that's the other thing about this franchise is it's so different from a lot of the other horror franchises, where you kind of know what you're going to get when you go into like a Halloween. You kind of know the gist of like your tone and what's going to happen. It would be weird if they kind of change things up, and we've seen that, and it has not paid off. But with Evil Dead, they kind of walk that line of like some entries follow a little bit more comedy. Some entries, like the 2013 one, are really just gory gut punches. And like, I was just blown away with how they handled this material, man. I absolutely adored it.
And I think that's the beauty of the Evil Dead as a franchise, where you look at your Screams, you look at your Halloweens, and you pretty much know the formula that you're going to get. And what Sam Raimi did opening this up is the situations can be applied to almost anything. And I think that was one of the big selling points for Evil Dead Rise, was we were getting a
Mhm.
different dynamic than we're used to here. And that was something even in the trailer. I know when we did the trailer breakdown, we had spoken about it, where it was like, I love the idea of, this is in a high-rise apartment. This is with a now single mother with her children, and now we're getting this deadite infection kind of coming in, and seeing how we play with that dynamic and how it's going to be a little different. And this one does feel different, but again, has the same tone. It feels in line with the Evil Dead franchise, with the qualities there. It does have those light undertones of comedy, where some of the comedy in this one, I guess, didn't hit for me, but it wasn't like overbearing where it take me out of the film, which was like, that one didn't resonate with me too much. But overall, I think they really did lean into the terror. They certainly leaned into the gore here, and I think it all worked.
Yeah, and for me, honestly, I'm gonna say the comedy for me actually worked, which normally I agree with you. I haven't been happy with a lot of the comedic takes that they've been trying to interject in a lot of these modern franchises. I think that it lands pretty stale. But there were a lot of moments that it felt very classic Evil Dead. It felt Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness to me. I think a little bit more Evil Dead 2, where it's a little bit more morbid. There's a lot of great references as well that were a nice chuckle, and things that, eagle-eyed Evil Dead fans will absolutely adore seeing things. I pointed one out to you. I don't want to spoil it because it was quite a bit of fun, but I nudged you and said, hey, check that out. And I thought that was good fun. And so it genuinely didn't bother me that much. I'll have to see on repeat viewings. I do plan on seeing this a couple more times this weekend, just because I got to celebrate when a franchise horror film knocks it out of the park a little bit, and plus Evil Dead is kind of my jam. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm really happy with it. Overall, I got to say my biggest positives I want to throw at this, other than just the fact that they got the tone right, and I think that they really did find a nice little niche when it comes to kind of landing, like I said, in that Evil Dead 2 kind of space. I really enjoyed the cast. I thought all the characters were very well grounded. Nobody, even the because there's neighbors that they kind of interact with. They're not as prominent in the trailer, but it's not really a spoiler that they're there. But nobody felt over the top. Nobody felt like they had any weird moments. Like, I'm so used to David Gordon Green and Danny McBride's writing for those Halloween films, where you just have this really out of place, weird side character, who's just there and is just making fucking stupid jokes and stuff. Everybody felt really believable. Even the comedic relief, like younger kids that were supposed to be there, felt very believable. And I just thought that was a breath of fresh air for a big franchise, because I'll even say Scream did that for me too, especially in Scream 6. And it was just one of those things where it's like, I loved everybody who was here, especially I got to pull up their name, but I want to give props to our character who plays Ellie. Her name is Alyssa Sutherland. She's the mother, so obviously we see her in all the marketing and everything. Holy shit, was she intimidating in some of this film, man. Like, there was a good portion of this where she had moments where she really committed to the act of a deadite, and oh man, she was scary.
Yeah, her range is just incredible in this film, and I think when you're casting people to play Deadites, I mean, they really have to have that range. And again, I think it was in the promotional material. I think we covered it on the trailer breakdown. Scene
Mhm.
that always gets me is where she's outside in the hallway talking to
Yeah.
her daughter on the inside. That one always gets me, and we only got a little blurb of that in the trailer, and then to actually sit there in the theater and get the extended version of that, where you're seeing, the before and after effects of everything, I think it adds that much more to it. And again, you get an extended viewing of being able to see her through that peephole and everything that is going down. And I absolutely love that kind of just, we're only getting that, again, that little peephole of what's going on. And they kind of leave some to the imagination, which I thought was so well done. And like you're saying, with the tone and everything, I love that this was in an apartment building, because you kind of get that opening up more than how we get a cabin in the woods, but it still has that claustrophobic feel because you're stuck in an apartment
Yeah.
building, and I think they made a great use. I think that was a great concept in general to actually use here. I would have loved to even seen a little bit more of them going throughout the building, but I mean that's not even a real critique. I didn't even know I wanted it until we were sitting in the theater, and I was like, "Oh, it'd be cool." But I overall, I think they just made great use of it.
Absolutely. And again, Lily Sullivan, she kind of takes the role of like our Ash Williams, Mia. She kind of becomes our center protagonist. She plays Mary Beth, and she does a fantastic job as well. I really loved her and her sister's dynamic. You really felt for it when uh, I guess, the possession, as you would call it, starts to take hold, and just the emotional crux of it, and her bond with all the kids. Like again, I think they sold the family dynamic beautifully. I think that the casting and everything for this was done really well. And I want to give the kids also, all three of them, Nell Fisher. This is her first film. They even say in the credits introducing as Cassie. Excellent child performance. Really had some great humor. Again, humor there, but not over the top. Honestly, sold me every time. I was not upset with any of her jokes or little quips or anything. Morgan Davies as Danny. I thought that they were great. They carried a lot of guilt in the film. And yeah, and then of course, Gabriella Eccles, I think is how you say her last name. I'm sorry if I butchered that, but they have some great range in this as well. That's all I'm going to say, because their role is a little bit more extended than I anticipated initially. So, that's one of those things where I got to highlight all the main cast here. But the next person I want to highlight, I got to say, is Lee Cronin. This is somebody I'm not too deeply familiar with their work. I didn't see a hole in the ground. I've heard good things, but it was something where it was like, again, just like with Fede Alvarez, the trades were saying that Sam Raimi handpicked Lee Cronin to tackle the Evil Dead. And the dude just understands this franchise and understands people who are going to take this stuff seriously and just do a bang up job, because I really thought that he, not only in his writing, understands this material and knew how to expand upon it and give us kind of a new sense of where we're going and what to do, but also just shot choices, shot composition. You bring up the peephole sequences, so fucking cool. Like honestly, I loved that. I loved how they used it. They you really do make the most of the apartment building. And I think that he just had a fantastic eye. You can tell that he's passionate about this franchise and wanted to take this story and just do everything in the toy box. He took it all out.
Yeah, and again, where you're in, for most part, in an actual apartment, that's where you're at for the majority of this. It seems like he made of every room that was available. We saw some of the bathroom sequence in the trailer again. Very epic stuff. Mommies with the maggots now is just an
A
absolute.
fantastic line.
It's perfect. It's sold
Iconic
so
at this
well.
point. It will be.
And then just the usage of, we're not going to get into spoilers, but the kitchens, what they do in the kitchen, there's multiple times that they enter the kitchen, and there's just so many things going on in there. They really make use of the apartment, and there's just a lot of great visuals here. There's, we have to dance around spoilers, but there's one scene that is visually, for me, is just like terrifying, where there's a character in a sheet, and it's just
So good. Honestly, I was so jazzed when I saw that. I was like, fuck, dude, this is so cool.
it's like he has a great idea of building tension,
Mhm.
and being written and directed by Lee Cronin. It really shines through that this is something that there is a lot of love that's interwoven in this entire film. It's like, yeah, I think the comedy is in line with Evil Dead 2. I think you look at the 2013, that one really went with, that serious dread feeling. And this one, I think, is in line with 2013, but I think he did inject a little more comedy into this one to kind of pay tribute a little more to the Evil Dead line. And I think that is the beauty of this franchise, is it's so versatile, where it's got a wide spectrum of tones, and you can make use of everything, and it's not going to feel unnatural. It's always going to feel organic. And I think definitely Evil Dead Rise feels in line with the franchise, definitely feels organic. There's a lot of great stuff here that we're going to be talking about in more depth when we can actually talk about spoilers. But I'm
Mhm.
excited to see this one again as well.
Absolutely. And if I had to really lay any criticism at this film's feet, just so that way I don't seem like I'm totally gushing, I will admit there's a cold open to this film. That does feel a little bit unnecessary. I kind of think in a lot of ways that, there's a cold open to 2013, but it's much shorter and it's much more to the point. But with this one, I just the way they kind of set that up, I was just a little bit like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess it's just kind of getting it out there. But it's one of those things where when we dive into spoilers, I'll have to talk about it a little bit more. But it is just one of those things where it's like, I think that overall it's a nice visual. If you're a gore hound, it's a great sequence. But does it really add anything to our current story? Not really. But it's like I can easily forgive that, especially for I don't get to say this often. The use of title card, fantastic. I love that. I thought that visual was amazing. It was
Yeah.
great.
And just to speak on that a little bit, I think the cold open really did work for me.
It did. Okay.
Yeah, just because at least I don't know how you were in that mindset. Um, and again, we're not going to dive into spoilers here, but you'll know what I'm talking about. Is as soon as we do the cold open and then we get into the story, you're at that mindset of trying to already put everything together and start placing it. So it kind of keeps you off kilter throughout the rest of the film as how you're trying to figure out how that cold open is going to intertwine with where we're already at and how that's going to make any sense. And, you do get that connective tissue. For me, again, I always say end on terror. And it's like you kind of start on terror, but it becomes an ending, so
It's
I
just
think,
I think the ending for me of because we have to save it for spoilers. I'm sorry, I can't, but
yeah,
I get where you're going with it. Because yeah, it is just it's great. It's
yeah,
that's all I can say. I mean, yeah. Um, but yeah, no, I enjoyed this. I thought this was right in line with everything I expected. The other thing that I can really give this a positive on as a huge Evil Dead fan is little pieces of dialogue that confirm certain pieces of lore here. And there's a big specific piece that I cannot wait to talk with you about in our spoiler review, because I don't know if you caught it, but I caught it right away because it was something that was just itching at me while I was putting together this Evil Dead essay that I'm releasing soon.
yeah.
And the fact that they acknowledged it made me so happy. It just again shows the care and love that they're putting into this. They're not ignoring things. They're not, really pulling away from anything. Yes, this is technically kind of if you want to look at it, an offshoot or a reboot in a sense, but like it's still within the lines of what we know of this universe. I loved it, man. I really that's everything I can say that's spoiler free at the moment.
Yeah, I'm right in line with you. I think the concept was an intriguing concept to get me into the theater. I think as we're sitting down in the theater, it was executed perfectly. By the end of this, just like the 2013 is ends in a very bloody, gory kind of tone, which I absolutely adored. Obviously, we're Splattercast, so we can't get enough of that. But overall, this was great, great character work. From the characters, and then seeing the Deadites, I mean, absolutely perfect. Just a great tone. They did a lot of great visuals in this thing. I think if you haven't seen, well, yeah, if you haven't seen it yet and you watched our review, I think you're gonna be visually stunned by a lot of things in this film. So definitely go out and check it out.
Absolutely, man. I can't recommend Evil Dead Rise highly enough. This is going to be tough to beat. Do I think we have any franchise horror coming out this year that's going to beat it? Probably not. But
Only Children of the Corn. That was it.
and we'll see about The Exorcist, I guess. But no, man, I think like these horror originals that we're gonna get as the year goes on, like they have a high bar to beat now for me. But absolutely go check out Evil Dead Rise, guys. This is a great movie if you're an Evil Dead fan. If you're not, I think that you're gonna love it if you're a horror fan in general. So Other than that, we do have a lot of great stuff coming to the channel. As we said, we're going to be doing a spoiler video for this. I think I'm going to put that bad boy up on Sunday, just after the Sunday Scary, so you guys can check that out. Give people a few days to check it out. But we have a little announcement with the spoiler. We are going to be joined by, of course, our good friend over at Rockland Graves Productions. Evan is coming back on the channel to discuss Evil Dead Rise, all the spoilers. Obviously, he's a big Evil Dead fan. He's been going through each film, on his channel as we went through the first and the remake on ours. And again, I did say I do have my Evil Dead essay going over the timeline and lore of the franchise, which should be out either Friday night or Saturday. So if you're watching this a few weeks down the line, it's out now, so go check it out. But yeah, other than that, we know we are on our way to 1,000 subscribers. If you're just finding us, please hit that subscribe button. And yeah, I mean, keep an eye out on Splattercast. We always got good stuff coming, and more on the way. So until next time, I am Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
Mummy's with the maggots now.